Hello, and welcome to the channel. Well, I'm a Canadian, and I'm looking to learn a little bit more about my friends and neighbors across the pond in the UK, in Britain, and other parts. And I found this video that I'd like to learn from today. There's 10 facts about Britain, and I wanted to share my thoughts and reactions with you. So let's get into it.
Today I've got 10 interesting facts about Britain. Some of them are hilariously funny and weird and great. Some of them are just facts that are very historical and serious. I love watching these kind of videos about other countries. I love learning about different culture. And so I really enjoyed making this one. So let's get started. Number 1, toad in the hole. You might be thinking this is related to an animal somewhere in the ground.
That is,
But no,
yes.
it's actually a dish. A traditional English dish. So the name is Toad in the Hole, which I just think is hilarious. A toad is like a big frog. I'm sure you know what these are. They are disgusting. I hate them. When I first moved into my flat in Brighton a few years back, on my first day there was a toad on the doorstep greeting me. And I called it my welcome toad, and he had a name, which was Ben. I have no idea why. But he was gross.
Wonder how she knew his name was Ben. Did he tell her, or did she name him? Toad in the hole. This, I've heard this phrase before, and I didn't know it was a dish, a food dish. I assumed it had nothing to do with toads. Yes, this is an uncommon phrase in Canada. I certainly have. Well, I've heard this before, though. I think we have a bar called Toad in the Hole, I think, nearby where I live in the same city. I'm not sure, but this phrase is certainly familiar to me. But I'm glad she's explaining it to me, and with the picture, I did not know this was food. I really didn't know what it was. I thought it was a phrase that meant something, but I really don't know what.
I'll be honest, he was revolting, so not a fan. Back to Toad in the Hole. Right, so this is a batter with sausages inside it, traditionally served with onion gravy and vegetables. So this dish derives from Yorkshire, so the origin of the name is unclear. It could be related to the way that toads wait for their prey to come along, and the way the sausages are in the batter, they're waiting. No one really knows. God, I hate toads. Ugh. But like with other things in Britain, it's quite eccentric and lovable and endearing. And there's also another dish which is called egg in a basket, which is just equally hilarious. Just to let you know though, it is really delicious and considered comfort food when the weather gets really cold and you just want something really filling and wholesome. Have some toad in the hole. It's very tasty. Number
I can imagine. I am interested to try that. I've never tried this before. I've never seen it on a menu in any restaurant I've been in before. And in Canada, I probably need to seek out a British restaurant. Maybe they serve this. Yeah, I've just not seen this dish before. Let me know in the comments. Is this something that is a fairly common dish in Britain? Is it something that you have you serve to family when they're coming over, or is this more of a kind of casual dinner? Yeah, anyway, so curious to know more about it. So it looks like sausages, and I think that she said gravy inside pastry. So those all sounds good to me. I'll sign me up.
2, a happy birthday wish from royalty. Yes, you may have heard, when you turn 100, you get a letter or a telegram from the Queen, or now the King. And this has just been happening for years. It's a really nice tradition. Actually, in the modern day, it's a personalised card that you receive, and it's no longer limited to just your 100th birthday. In fact, in the UK, you can apply for a letter to be sent to you for your 105th birthday, and then every birthday after that. I just think that's so lovely. What do you think? Let me know in the comments.
That does sound very lovely. Actually, here in Canada, we don't get a memo or telegram from the Queen or the King, but we do get a memo, or I haven't received mine yet. It's a long way to go. But people who turn 100 do get a letter of congratulations from the Governor General. And Canada, being a Commonwealth country, has a representative to the king, and that person is the Governor General. So that person is really the link between Canada's Prime Minister and the King of England. So I guess similar to the tradition in Britain or in England, the Governor General in Canada does send a congratulatory letter to those people who achieve the age of 100. So it's interesting to know where these traditions come from. I'm sure Canada copied this tradition from Britain. I'm sure we didn't come up with it ourselves. There's so much in Canada that when I had visited England, well, a long time, close to 20 years ago, I realized, oh, now I know where all these things have come from in Canada. But having lived in Canada my whole life, I didn't realize that they originated in Britain, but I should have known that. In any case, that was pretty cool. So this is yet another thing that I didn't know. We in Canada copied from our Commonwealth home back in Britain.
Number 3, chicken tikka masala is our national dish. Now, you might equate British food to fish and chips, Sunday roast, a cream tea, but actually our nation had a vote and we all voted for chicken tikka masala as our favourite dish. And I have to say, it is delicious. You cannot beat a chicken tikka masala from time to time. You know, you just sometimes just get this craving for a curry. I love the Cockney rhyming slang for curry. They say Ruby Murray. Let's have a Ruby Murray. I love it. Now it's...
Oh, I've not, she just said something I don't know. Let me just go back to that spelling there. She said Cockney rhyming slang. I honestly don't. I'm not sure what that means. Ruby Murray. I no. So going back, there's a lot to digest here. So literally, tikka masala. I do love chicken tikka masala. I personally think of India when I see that dish, but I'm sure I imagine that dish originated in India, and but I understand there's a lot of Indian dishes in England, and so I can that's my perception of how that came to be. But this other word she used, Cockney rhyming slang. I'm lost. I have to write that down and see what that means. This is not a phrase I'm familiar with at all. So just yet another thing for me to try to research and understand. I love it. So let's see what else she has to say.
Ruby Murray. I love
Ruby
it.
Murray.
Now,
okay.
It's not certain who was first to come up with the chicken tikka masala recipe, but it was popularised by British Asian cooks in the 1960s.
Oh.
I just love the link we have to India. So UK and India, we're so linked on many, many things. And another example is cricket. India loves cricket, and so do we. We have a very big history of cricket playing in the UK. So it's just lovely when countries come together like that.
So I was wrong. It did not originate in India. It originated in England in the 1960s with Indian-born chefs living in England. So interesting. Okay, I've learned so much already. And then cricket, the game of cricket. I've certainly heard of it before, but it seems like we have certainly Canada has a lot of links to Britain, but cricket somehow didn't make it here. I mean, I'm sure cricket exists in Canada somewhere, but it's not widely played. It's not extremely popular. The most popular kind of sport, I guess you could say, in Canada, it would be hockey. And maybe that doesn't surprise anyone. Or curling. Curling is also very popular in the winter, but cricket is not as commonly played here. Certainly not at all. I mean, I would have to look hard probably to find a cricket game to go see. I don't know of any off the top of my head. But in any case, let's see what else she's got to tell me. I'm learning so much already. This is great.
Before, we really love tea. Now, sometimes you can write a few stereotypes off in life, but this one is pretty accurate. When you think of British people drinking a lot of tea, it's true. It's absolutely true. What can I say?
I do.
I think my granny gets through about maybe 100 cups a week. I mean, it's literally on the hour every hour.
Wow. Oh, wow.
So the British consume around 100 million cups of tea every day. And just in case you wanted to know this, that's 36 billion cups a year. Unlike most other countries, though, correct me if I'm wrong, 98% of us do add milk to the brew, including me. It's lovely. If you haven't tried it, try it. But I have to say, I'm more of a coffee person. I I don't really drink tea that often, actually. I like it when it's made in a teapot. So when my granny makes a proper tea, it's lovely. But yeah, she uses tea leaves, which is the old-fashioned way of making tea. Number 5.
I think of our in Canada, if we have a stereotype of Britain, tea, I'm sure, is in there somewhere. And what she said doesn't surprise me. It sort of follows with what we believe is a popular drink there. And tea with milk, I think I'm not very much of a tea drinker or a coffee drinker, but if I was to have, when I've had tea, I have not added milk, but I could see myself adding milk. I think that would be fine. Yeah, tea is popular, and coffee. I would probably, in Canada, coffee is more popular than tea, but still, certainly tea is very popular. Still very popular.
Cheese rolling is a sport.
I've heard of this.
Yes,
That's
you heard
fun.
right. Cheese rolling. What could that possibly mean? Maybe you're thinking it's something to do with a cooking competition. No, it's not. I wish it was. It's a competition that happens annually. A group of people stand at the top of a very, very steep hill in Gloucestershire, and they chase a 3.2 kilogram wheel of cheese down the hill. As you can imagine, this is pretty dangerous.
I've seen videos of that.
The most recent one happened last week, and people broke legs, people had seizures. I mean, this is not for the faint-hearted. I have to say though, the cheese in that area is absolutely delicious. They have so many varieties of hard cheese. And so I can quite understand why they're chasing a piece of cheese down the hill and not something completely different. But yeah, it was too funny not to share with you that. And
I have heard of this. I've seen videos of it, and I understand what she says. People get hurt. I mean, they're running down this hill at full speed, and they're just falling down. They're going head over heels. They're doing somersaults. I guess the intent is to get down as fast as possible to win. But it really seemed dangerous. I mean, certainly it's the young people that are doing it. But I don't think there's any elderly people trying this sport. But when I heard about it, I had to research more, and I did see a video about it. I should try to find another one of those and do a reaction on this channel, but it sounds very interesting. I wonder, though, she didn't mention, I didn't figure out what happens to the cheese after. Did people eat the cheese? Is this cheese that somehow went bad and couldn't be used? Maybe the cheese isn't the focus of it, but I just worry about the cheese, that it doesn't go to waste, because that's a lot of cheese. But interesting, very interesting.
I know that in Spain they have this giant tomato throwing fight. Correct me if I'm wrong if it's not in Spain. It sounds hilarious and amazing. Let me know in the comments if you have anything similar to this happening in your country. Number 6. Scotland has a famous monster. Now, you've probably heard about the Loch Ness Monster. It's a very big tourist attraction in Scotland.
Yes.
Affectionately named Nessie. It is a monster with 2 humps in its back. And this myth, or maybe it's not a myth, has been around for years. And although it's make-believe and not true, many people have said that they have seen this monster in recent decades. Well, so there's no smoke without fire. What do you think?
So I've definitely heard of the Loch Ness Monster, and it's something that's very well known, I think, in Canada. And we actually have a similar, I guess I'll say, creature in Canada. Make-believe, I suppose. I'm not sure. Some people claim to have seen him. But it's in Lake Okanagan, which is in British Columbia, our westernmost province. And the creature there is called Ogopogo. So it's very much like Loch Ness Monster. I'm not sure where Ogopogo came from. Maybe they're related to Loch Ness Monster, or I don't know how it came to be, but this is a mountainous area and a fairly long and fairly narrow lake, and apparently Ogopogo lives there. So we have a similar one in Canada, but I'm sure Loch Ness Monster is much more famous than our Ogopogo.
Tell me in the comments. Personally, though, I can quite understand how this myth began. I went on a trip around Scotland in a camper van, and we slept next to locks and woke up in the morning and the mist was just hanging over the lock.
Sounds
and
beautiful.
I have to say, it is one of the most magical, eerie, mystical places I've ever been. Who knows what's down there lurking in the depths of the Loch Ness? Number 7, stamps originated in the UK.
Oh, okay.
Did you know that? I didn't. I found this out quite recently.
Didn't know
the
that.
The UK was the first country to use postage stamps. First ever stamp was known as the penny black, and it was issued in 1840. These days, it's not as cheap to send a letter as it once was,
No.
but I still think it's a lovely, lovely thing, and I very often write letters to my granny, updating her on what I've been up to. And also, stamp collecting is a very popular hobby. More with the older generations, I would say, and my grandpa has books and books and books of stamps, and it's really, really relaxing to just sort of flip through them and see how the stamps have changed over the years. Number 8.
When I was a kid, I used to collect stamps because we used to get a lot of letters and a lot of stamps, especially at Christmas time. The practice of sending Christmas cards to family and friends. We would send many and we would receive many, and some of our friends and relatives were overseas and in different countries, so I would get different stamps from them as well. But these days, the practice of sending letters has really decreased significantly, so stamp collecting is not something. I haven't been stamp collecting for many years now, but anyway, I can see how that would decline. And she mentioned the older folks like me would be the ones collecting. But and then the stamp. I didn't know stamps were created originally in the UK, but it's certainly something we used to use a lot of here in Canada. But email is a lot quicker and simpler and faster now, as we know.
Stonehenge is older than the pyramids. So we often think of the pyramids as being the oldest monuments in the world. But there are some
5,000 years
constructions
old
in the UK that are even older. Stonehenge is located in the southwest of England, and it's one of the UK's most famous tourist attractions. Stonehenge was believed to have been created in 3000 BC, meaning that it's older than Egyptian pyramids. If you come to the UK, try to visit Stonehenge. There's just something really eerie about standing amongst the rocks, which are enormous, by the way, and no one really knows how the rocks got there. There's no real explanation for how they got there. It's incredible. Number 9.
Yeah, I've watched some specials on the Discovery Channel about Stonehenge and talking about how those stones got there, and basically the type of rock they are, do not originate in that area, and they must have come from far away, 100 miles away, something like that. So 150, 160 kilometers away. So it's interesting. Certainly I've heard of Stonehenge. I have not visited Stonehenge. One day I'd like to go there. I would love to walk in amongst the stones, but I understand for preservation purposes they don't allow tourists to go and just walk around the rocks, and certainly you can't touch them because that will just simply degrade them. If they've already been there for 5,000 years, I'm sure a whole bunch of tourists with their grubby hands, they don't want them on them. So very interesting, and wow, didn't realize they were older than the pyramids.
A Welsh town has the longest name in Europe. In fact,
heard this
one
too,
of the longest names in the world. Now, road
Yeah.
signs in Wales tend to be written in Welsh and English. It is the most beautiful language. When you hear it, it's like music. It's got all these interesting Gaelic sounds to it. And I'm not going to lie, I cannot attempt to say this. I have tried a couple of times, but I'm going to leave a link in the description box where you can go and watch it being said and listen to it, because the guy that does it is giving the weather forecast, and he absolutely nails it in a way that I could never. So my sister went to university in Cardiff, which is in Wales, and it's just such a lovely place to visit. Really friendly people and just beautiful countryside. So if you're ever in the UK and you have some extra time, try to go and visit Wales.
Wow. Yes, I did, more than 2 decades ago, take a bus tour in England, Wales, and Scotland for less than a week. So it was a very short trip, and we saw many things, but we did quickly visit Wales, and I was made aware of this town name, and I have heard it pronounced, and I agree I cannot pronounce it myself. You know, you think of the children in school in the Wales, and they have to, you know, name their towns or, you know, learn the spelling of towns. I think that their task may be one of the hardest ones compared to ours. I mean, of course, when I was in grade school, I had to learn the names of all of our Canadian provinces and the capital cities and spelling and all of that. And I can just imagine for the kids in Wales, that would be more challenging.
Number 10. The UK has one of the largest libraries in the world. So I love this library. The closest station to it is King's Cross St Pancras in London. And it's pretty
I've
easy
been
to
there.
find once you get to that station. And I used to teach English in the city in London, and I would have gaps between my classes. During the gaps between these classes, I just went to the British Library because it's an amazing place to go. There's a cafe, and you can just get a book and sit there and just be surrounded by these cabinets. Some of them are glass cabinets full of books that are not allowed to be touched because they're so old. But there's just something really atmospheric about being surrounded by old things and age. It has over 170 million items.
Wow.
And if you laid out all of the different items, it would stretch all the way to Aberdeen. That's crazy. Also, this number is growing every year. So the library is getting bigger and bigger. It's kind of magic how they fit all of that stuff into one building. It's just kind of like Mary Poppins, you know, when she had that bag and she'd pull out these huge lampshades and stuff. I don't know about you, but I absolutely love libraries, and a really, really big one is just even better. I hope you've enjoyed this video.
I have enjoyed the video. I've been to King's Cross St Pancras station, a tube station in London. I didn't know the British Library was nearby. I completely missed that. I feel that that's unfortunate. I did visit the British Museum, though. I know it wasn't next to that tube station, but I visited the British Museum. The thing I can clearly remember seeing there is the Rosetta Stone, which is something I had learned about in grade school and didn't know and thought of it since grade school until I went to the British Museum, and there it was almost near the entrance, and I was so shocked that it was there and excited yet to see such a important artifact from world history. In any case, I really enjoyed learning more about Britain and her top 10 list there, and I intend to do some more learning. So I've written down a few things here that I want to continue to study and understand a little bit more. And I'm glad you joined me in my journey today as a Canadian, trying to learn a little bit more about Britain. Thanks so much for watching. If you found the video interesting or informative, I'd appreciate it if you can give me a thumbs up, and also consider subscribing for future videos where I'm learning and discovering more. Thanks so much for watching, and have a great day.